Thank you. So I'm sort of more of a nomadic artist in that I do work everywhere, and so my presentation is going to talk about that a little bit, and hopefully it'll be interesting. So. So public art is something that I use, and I think it's very important when we think of artists as cultural creators and use them as tools to sort of do projects throughout everywhere and the world. So for the purpose of this conversation, I want to put a definition to public art. I see public art as a bringing together of community, and that's a very broad term, community. We all define community in different ways. The space, and the space could also be a place, and the artists and the art, right? And so when these three things come together and they overlap, this is when we get public art. And to create public art, in my definition, it's to ask a question: what is the art meant to do? And the art answers that question. So in the interest of this presentation and showing you some of the experiences that I have as a nomadic artist, a mobile artist throughout the world, I'm going to talk about some of these projects. This first one was, the question was, what is the art meant to do in a community that was divided? In this particular community, there were lots of different cultures that didn't necessarily agree with each other. And so we needed a vehicle, a catalyst to get people to talk and engage. And so that catalyst was a flag. And this is called the People's Flag of Footscray. And this is Australia, and I'm not going to get into locations too much in this presentation. But using the Australian flag as the base, we took an element of 16 cultures' flag and added and spliced it together to make a brand new flag. And so when we see this flag in this community, it means that we need to come together as a community to resolve a problem. This flag was officially instituted in this community. And whenever you see it go up, it means like something's up. We need to come together. We need to work together and do something to resolve it as a community. We also created these decals that you saw in cars or in shops or in homes, which basically said this is a safe place. You know, if you are feeling unsafe, if you want to have a discussion, this is a safe place to have that. Sports is a big deal in this community, and once it was adopted by the local rugby team, it became really super official. How many of you have had acupuncture? Okay, very good, a few of you. And so the idea of acupuncture is to sort of begin to heal the body. And so this project is taking on that idea to heal a place. And so this is called the Acupuncture Project. And the way it worked is, in this community, there were these giant acupuncture needles that were placed in different locations. And in each of those locations, there was something up. There's something wrong. There's something that needed to be resolved. And it was up to the community to figure out what that problem was and to figure out how to resolve it. So this project is not about the needles, the sculptural needles per se, but it's about the community coming together to resolve that issue. An interesting that happened as this was happening was that nobody wanted their needle to be the last one to be removed. So people mobilized and made sure that they found the problem and resolved it as soon as possible. And so this is a good catalyst, a good way to use art as a means to address issues. In terms of what do you want the art to do in this particular community, the folks were like, we have these very dilapidated, ugly buildings that gave a very negative impressions of who we are. So we want the art to change the perception of that, but we also want a place to do things, to do activities as a group. And so this turned into this, and on a very sort of shallow level, it made an ugly building more beautiful, but it had another purpose. And this project is called Open House. So it took the community, more than one person, to open this house. And when they did, it became places for seating, to hold a church service, to hold a concert, to hold anything that the community wanted to do together. And so this is another good example of how public art could be used to resolve issues. In a park in a city, there was a very little green space. And the problem was, how do we get people to come into this space? People weren't going into that space because it was the only green space. The only green space is the only place for birds. If there's a lot of birds in a park, you know what's going to happen when you walk in there. You're going to get bird poop on you. And so the idea was, how do we get people to re-visualize that space, to get them into that space and use it again? So this bird made out of fallen leaves was basically the trap to get people. So we placed it in the center of the park, and curiosity got the best of people, and they walked in. And when they went in, we sort of recreated the city, but for the city of birds. And so, like in any city, you have your good neighborhoods, you have your bad neighborhoods, you have your cultural districts. And so I'm going to show you some of the birdhouses that were created. This is a duplex in the rich neighborhood. So you had a bird live on top and a bird live on the bottom. You had, this is the posh neighborhood, where you had the more architectural design birdhouses. One was designed to evoke the fallen leaf, and another was the thorn of a stem of a rose. You had birdhouses that represented the cultural district, the balalaika and the theater. We also incorporated some signs where there's like heavy possibility that you may get pooped on, and the milk house. You can't have a city without a bar, and so there was a bar for the birds, and of course a post office. And so the idea of engaging the people, and these birdhouses were created by everybody, from architectural students from the university to high school to local kids, and it really changed that park. This project has been going on for a number of years now, and so there's very many more birdhouses that I'm showing you today. In this particular city, asked the question, what do you want the art to do? There was so many advertising banners that blocked out the sky, and so the question was, give me back my sky. So the idea was to take the advertising vinyl banners and make a brand new material out of it and create hammocks that went throughout the city. And you know what happens when you lay in a hammock? You see the sky. Give them back the sky. This city had a lot of water fountains throughout. It's sort of known for the many fountains, but the people didn't have access to the water. So the artwork was meant to engage in conversations as to why that is. And so these are some of the projects that were created. This is a water tower that enables self-sustainability. During the rainy seasons, the water goes into the tower and you get to use it as you please. This is canned water. In this particular place, people don't use canned goods. So the idea of canned water being given out for free was very unusual. So they had to really work hard to open up the can. So making a metaphor with there's a lot of water, but you can't really access it. Then there's this water bar. And basically, there's a bit of a test. This was set up in the market, and you're asked to sample waters from different parts of the world. European water, American water, Australian water, and the local water. And they asked which water tastes best. And they said, well, our local water tastes worse. And then at the end, we say, oh, by the way, you're drinking the same water. So really thinking about how you see your place where you see your place in society, and how the grass always looks greener on the other side. In this location, there were a group of artists who wanted to display work that they've been creating, mostly film and photography, but they didn't have a place to put it. So we saw this old bus, and that looked like this for quite a while. This is after many hours of cleaning, and went from this to this, and from that to that. And so now it allowed for a lot of different engagement, a place for this work to be seen and enjoyed, and the bus now has had many different iterations. And public art as engagement is something that's very important in just sort of engaging with each other. And so just before I came on, there was a bit of an exercise to force you to engage with each other. And so I like when art does that as well. And so this is one of those projects. This is one of my favorite projects. This is called Say Something Nice. Okay? And if you live in New York City, you know that that's a thing, for people to be forced to say something nice sometimes. And so this was just a very simple project that was set up in a park, pedestal, bullhorn, say something nice. We are a very suspicious bunch, right? So for a while it was there and nobody said anything, nobody used it. Everybody was like, what's going on here? What's up? Until one person stepped up and said something nice. And it was this guy. He said, I love my best friend. And that's his best friend in the red. And from that moment on, people lined up to come and say something nice. Not everybody said something nice, which was expected. But when they do, it really changed the environment of that place. It really changed the way we saw each other, the way we engaged with each other. And what was fantastic was these women, they sang, And if you ever hear sort of a gospel choir, it's just some spiritually beautiful about it, and they just spontaneously sang to whoever would listen. And so, the whole point is give artists the opportunity, time, and trust, and they are very important assets to anything and to engage in any kind of way. And so, with that, I say thank you.